नमस्कार, शुभ प्रभात। मेरा नाम है वेरोनिका और मैं आप सभी का स्वागत करती हूँ IDSA की तरफ से। पहले तो आप सभी का तहे दिल से शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहूँगी, आप सभी यहाँ अपना कीमती समय निकाल के आए। तो आज के कार्यक्रम की शुरुआत करतल ध्वनि के गुंजन से एक बार जोरदार तालियां हो जाए। कैन वी हैव अ ह्यूज राउंड ऑफ अप्लॉज लेडीज एंड जेंटलमैन। अब मैं अनुरोध करूंगी सभी IDSA एग्जीक्यूटिव कमेटी मेंबर्स का कि वो मंच पे आके अपना स्थान ग्रहण करें। एक बार जोरदार तालियों के साथ सभी का मंच पे स्वागत करें, अभिनंदन करें। आज बहुत ही शुभ अवसर है, जैसा कि हम जानते हैं रामनवमी का भी आज दिन है। शुभ मुहूर्त है, शुभ दिन है। वैसे तो खैर हर दिन ही शुभ होता है, मगर आज कैलेंडर के हिसाब से भी काफी शुभ दिन है। तो आप सभी को रामनवमी की भी हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं। चलिए आज की कार्यक्रम की शुरुआत करते हैं। हम भारतवर्ष से हैं और जब हम भारत की बात करते हैं तब हम बात करते हैं रंगों की, हम बात करते हैं रीति रिवाजों की, पंच महाभूतों की। और हमारे एक संस्कृति, जब भी किसी शुभ कार्य की शुरुआत करते हैं तो दीप प्रज्वलन के साथ करते हैं, अग्नि को साक्षी मान के करते हैं। तो आइए आज के इस कार्यक्रम की शुरुआत भी दीप प्रज्वलन के साथ करें। सभी एक साथ अस्तो मां सद्गमया की राह पर चलते हुए सभी से अनुरोध है, जितने भी मंच पर उपस्थित हमारे एग्जीक्यूटिव कमेटी मेंबर्स हैं, दीप प्रज्वलन की ओर अग्रसर हो। आइए सब मिलके दीप प्रज्वलन की ओर अग्रसर होते हैं, मन से शामिल होते हैं, अग्नि को साक्षी मानते हुए आज के इस कार्यक्रम की शुरुआत करते हैं। लेट अस स्टार्ट टुडेज डे विद अ लैंप लाइटनिंग सेरेमनी। बहुत ही सुंदर सा वेद मंत्र है।
शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणं आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः। शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणं
जोरदार तालियां हो जाएं।
शत्रुबुद्धि विनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोस्तुते, दीपज्योतिर्नमोस्तुते। शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणं आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। वेद मंत्र कहता है, अस्तो मां सद्गमया, तमसो मां ज्योतिर्गमया, मृत्योर्मा अमृतम गमया। असत्य से सत्य की ओर, अंधकार से प्रकाश की ओर और मृतत्व से जीवत्व की ओर हम सब मिलकर अग्रसर होते हैं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मंच पे उपस्थित सभी कमेटी मेंबर्स का। एक बार पुनः आप सभी का स्वागत करना चाहूंगी। अब औपचारिक तरीके से आज के इस कार्यक्रम की शुरुआत करते हैं। एक बार थोड़ी सी और एनर्जी ऊपर करते हैं इस हॉल की। जोरदार तालियां एक बार फिर से हो जाएं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। चलिए अब मैं आमंत्रित करना चाहूंगी महाप्रबंधक जी को, IDSA श्री चेतन भारद्वाज जी, कि वो पोडियम पे आए और आज के इस कार्यक्रम की शुरुआत करें। जोरदार तालियों के साथ स्वागत करें सर।
नमस्कार आप सभी को। सबसे पहले खेद है, हमें माननीय मंत्री जी का आज सुबह संदेश प्राप्त हुआ, किसी कारणवश उन्हें पटना जाना पड़ा, बट उन्होंने शुभकामनाएं भेजी हैं हमारे एनुअल सर्वे लॉन्च के लिए और बहुत जल्द हमारा अपना मैसेज भी हम सबके साथ साझा करेंगे। सो इंडियन डायरेक्ट सेलिंग एसोसिएशन की कार्यकारी समिति के सभी सदस्य, सभी पदाधिकारी, भारतीय डायरेक्ट सेलिंग उद्योग की शीर्ष इकाइयों के वरिष्ठ प्रतिनिधि, मीडिया के साथी और सभा स्थल में उपस्थित सभी लोगों का IDSA की ओर से मैं चेतन भारद्वाज, जनरल मैनेजर, हार्दिक अभिनंदन करता हूं। आप सभी का धन्यवाद कि आप समय निकालकर यहाँ आए, मंथ एंड और हमारे इस आयोजन का हिस्सा बने। आज श्री रामनवमी के पावन अवसर पर मैं आशा करता हूं कि प्रभु श्री राम हमारी इस महान भारत भूमि पर अपना आशीर्वाद सदैव बनाए रखेंगे। भारतीय डायरेक्ट सेलिंग उद्योग निरंतर सफलता की नई कहानियां लिख रहा है। पिछले कुछ वर्षों में इस उद्योग ने न केवल भारतीय अर्थव्यवस्था के विकास में महत्वपूर्ण योगदान दिया है, बल्कि देश के हर छोटे बड़े हिस्से तक अपनी पहुंच बनाई है। हम आभारी हैं उपभोक्ता मामले विभाग में कार्यरत सभी पदाधिकारियों के, जो समय समय पर डायरेक्ट सेलिंग उद्योग से संबंधित विषयों पर हमारे साथ वार्तालाप करते हैं और आवश्यकता अनुसार अहम मुद्दों पर परामर्श देते रहते हैं। और खरीद के वैकल्पिक तरीके के रूप में डायरेक्ट सेलिंग न केवल भारत में बल्कि दुनिया भर में अपनी एक अलग पहचान स्थापित कर रहा है। डायरेक्ट सेलिंग व्यवसाय के लिए भारत भी एक आकर्षक बाजार है, हर इंडस्ट्री की तरह, और कंपनियां अपने ग्राहकों से सीधे संपर्क करने के इस तरीके को बहुत तेजी से अपना रही हैं। हमें पूरी आशा है कि उपभोक्ता के हितों से जुड़े मुद्दों पर हमें विभाग का समय समय पर सहयोग मिलता रहेगा, और आपको आश्वस्त करते हैं कि अगले कुछ वर्षों में भारत विश्व के शीर्ष डायरेक्ट सेलिंग बाजारों में अपना स्थान स्थापित करेगा। भारतीय डायरेक्ट सेलिंग उद्योग ने इस वर्ष कैसा प्रदर्शन किया है, ये हम कुछ ही समय में आंकड़ों के माध्यम से जानेंगे, पर आज इस अवसर पर एक उद्योग के रूप में हमें अपने कर्तव्यों के बारे में भी कुछ जानना जरूरी है, चर्चा जरूरी हो जाती है। डायरेक्ट सेलिंग उद्योग से जुड़ा हर व्यक्ति यदि अपने आप को केवल अपनी कंपनी का नहीं बल्कि समूचे उद्योग का ब्रांड एम्बेसडर समझे, एक प्रतिनिधि समझे, और अपने व्यवसाय करने के तौर तरीकों को उपभोक्ता केंद्रित यानी कंज्यूमर सेंट्रिक अप्रोच के साथ ढाल ले, तो हम देखेंगे कि हम बहुत अधिक संख्या में लोगों को इस इंडस्ट्री के साथ जोड़ पाएंगे। महात्मा गांधी ने कहा था, एक ग्राहक हमारे परिसर में सबसे महत्वपूर्ण आगंतुक है। वह हम पर निर्भर नहीं है, हम उस पर निर्भर हैं। वह हमारे काम में रुकावट नहीं है, वह उसका उद्देश्य है। हमारा कारोबार में वह कोई भारी व्यक्ति नहीं है, वह हमारे कारोबार का एक हिस्सा है। मुझे खुशी है ये बताते हुए कि आईडीएसए की हमारी सभी मेंबर कंपनीज इसी कंज्यूमर सेंट्रिक अप्रोच के साथ काम करती हैं और निरंतर देश में अपनी पहुंच बढ़ाती जा रही हैं। ज्यादा समय न लेते हुए मैं एक बार फिर आप सभी का इस आयोजन में हार्दिक अभिनंदन करता हूं और आशा करता हूं कि आज हम सभी यहां से भविष्य के इस उद्योग, जिसे हम डायरेक्ट सेलिंग के नाम से जानते हैं, के बारे में नई जानकारियां लेंगे। धन्यवाद।
सर के उद्बोधन से एक बात याद आई, जब हम बोलते हैं कि कंज्यूमर ही ईश्वर है, कंज्यूमर ही भगवान है, और बात बिल्कुल सत्य है। चलिए आगे बढ़ते हैं। अब मैं जिनको मंच पे बुलाना चाहूंगी, इनके सक्षम नेतृत्व, दूरदृष्टि और व्यापक अनुभव की बदौलत आईडीएसए अपने उद्देश्यों को अधिक जोश और ऊर्जा के साथ हासिल करने और नई ऊंचाइयां छूने की दिशा में आगे बढ़ रहा है। अब मैं पोडियम पे आमंत्रित करना चाहूंगी चेयरमैन श्री रजत बैनर्जी जी का। जोरदार तालियों के साथ स्वागत करें।
Very good morning to everybody, all our member companies and their representatives, members of the media, and others who are in the hall today. As you know, the IDSA annual survey is released every year. It's an annual survey. हर 12 महीने survey release होता है, and we have the team, wonderful team from Ipsos, who will be sharing the data with us in a few minutes. So I'll not enter into what they want to have to disclose with us, but this physical launch of the annual survey has taken place after a 2-year gap because of the COVID that hit us in the middle. Luckily, last year, the Minister of State, who was expected here today, unfortunately is not among us here in this hall, couldn't make it today, but he had released it last year. And from IDSA, I think we all were quite pleasantly taken aback and surprised at his grasp of the direct selling industry. As we all know, he's from Bihar, and I think over 20 years back, someone from his family was making a living as a direct seller. So we were well received at the ministry. I'm not reading out from a speech today because a lot of it was addressed to the Mantri ji. Now that it's more like an update for our own member companies and direct sellers. I think what I'll just focus on is today onwards for the industry. I think all of us in the hall know that in 2021, the government gave us the consumer protection direct selling rules, which Chetan made a brief reference of our responsibilities as direct sellers towards the consumer. And as the name suggests, this act is aimed for consumer protection clearly. And in that clarity, the direct selling industry also gets its broad operational clarity to work in. Are the direct selling rules perfect? Well, IDSA is in conversation with the ministry right now for seeking minor amendments to the rules so that there's absolute clarity at the ground level, at the state level, etc. So what do we do from here? Those of you who have been through the rules or who have spoken to those who have understood the rules would know that now the ball is pretty much in the court of the states. सेंटर का काम हो गया तकरीबन, अमेंडमेंट के बाद सेंटर का खास रोल ऐसा है नहीं. So the implementation of the rules now is at the state level. What has IDSA been doing, let's say, since January of 2022, once the rules came to us? The executive committee that you see out here and the others, couple of our executive members are not here today, unfortunately. We've been traveling, and I can safely say we have covered at least 15 states over the last 10-12 months to speak to the states to understand their understanding of the rules. Because, I've been in this role for the last about 12 years. It's taken us more than a decade to get that clarity from the center, and we've got that clarity. I hope it doesn't take us another 10 years to give that clarity to the state level. But our effort has been to talk to the state governments to ensure that they understand what these rules are, that they understand that this is an ongoing industry. It's not something that starts when the rules came out. We've been around for more than 20, 25 years. And I think most of you would be part of that industry for almost as long. So that is what IDSA is doing right now. We are talking to the states for smooth implementation of the rules, ताकि किसी के business में कोई बाधा या कोई speed breaker ना आए, number one. To help states understand how the rules fit in with the various other laws in the land, IDSA has engaged a National Law School, Bangalore, uh, to carry out capacity building for various states. We were hoping to start by around April this year. Maybe by I guess by June, NLS should be in a position to roll out the capacity building for the states, so that the nodal officers at the various states understand how to implement these rules. It gives me tremendous pride to share with you that IDSA is part of the monitoring committee in at least 4 states, Chetan, 5 states now. So you could give yourselves a hand if you don't mind, because I think it's recognition for the work that all of us do, and not just those of us on the dais. It's recognition for the work that you do, that 5 state governments have found it important enough to include IDSA in the monitoring part. Because very often, or rather, that is the pitch we've given to the state governments, that very often this business model needs a bit of explanation. So we can provide you with that. That is what IDSA sees itself in the next, I guess, 12 months to help ensure that the direct selling rules are well implemented at the state level. We will use our let's say our efforts to ensure that there is no hold up in the business from any perspective. With that, I once again thank you all for joining us today. I know I would have liked to see a larger audience in the hall, but well, we have a long day ahead. As some of you know, we have the Adya in the second half, where we will be recognizing the women distributors of all member companies, select women distributors, of course. And I think we'll be joined by the chairperson of the Parliamentary Standing Committee of Consumer Affairs, Ms. Lockett Chatterjee. So I hope you all will be around for that event as well. With that, thank you for joining us again. Once again.
Thank you so much, Mr. Banerjee, for sharing the industry insights with each one of us. Can we have a huge round of applause once again? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the time we all have been waiting for. We'll now move ahead with the launch of annual survey. But before we go ahead, let us understand what all this annual survey will cover. एक बार जान लेते हैं कि मुख्य तौर पर इस सर्वे में क्या-क्या included होगा. ये सर्वेक्षण वित्त वर्ष 2021 से 22 की अवधि से संबंधित है, जो देश के डायरेक्ट सेलिंग इंडस्ट्री के उत्तरोत्तर प्रगति, आकार, देश के खजाने और इसके विकास में योगदान तथा इससे जुड़े लोगों की संख्या का भूत और वर्तमान स्वरूप को तुलनात्मक आंकड़ों के रूप में प्रस्तुत करता है. So all the facts, figures, numbers will be included in the annual survey report. वित्तीय वर्ष 2021-22 के लिए वार्षिक सर्वेक्षण इप्सॉस स्ट्रैटेजी 3 द्वारा तैयार किया गया है और इसके लिए इस विमोचन के अवसर पर मैं आमंत्रित करना चाहूंगी श्री दीपक हनुमंतरायप्पा, पार्टनर एंड कंट्री हेड, इप्सॉस स्ट्रैटेजी 3. आपसे अनुरोध करूंगी कि आप मंच पे आए और सर्वेक्षण के विमोचन के लिए अग्रसर हो. जोरदार तालियों के साथ स्वागत करें श्री दीपक हनुमंतरायप्पा जी का. With this, ladies and gentlemen, we all will proceed towards the annual survey report for direct selling industry. This is the moment on this auspicious occasion. जोरदार तालियां हो जाएं. Can we have a huge round of applause? This will cover all the facts and figures of the financial year 2021 to 2022. थैंक यू सो मच. अब मैं श्री दीपक जी से अनुरोध करूंगी कि जो उनकी प्रेजेंटेशन है डायरेक्ट सेलिंग उद्योग को लेके आप सभी के सामने वो प्रस्तुत करें. Can we have a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, once again?
Can you please put up the presentation on the screen, please? Yeah, thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. So I just saw my clock. It's already afternoon. So good afternoon, everyone. So I'm very excited and happy to be here to meet you all physically. So last 2 years, been literally boring to talk to a screen. It's nice to talk to a live audience right in front of me. So before I start, I would like to thank IDSA team and the management to give us this opportunity for the third consecutive year to be our knowledge partner and keep a pulse on what's happening in the direct selling industry. I would also like to thank all the members who made it possible for us to analyze and put the data together by virtue of sharing all the relevant data that's required to do the kind of work that we had to do, and all the consumers, direct sellers who participated in the whole piece. So we had about 1,400 plus such direct sellers and consumers who participated in the survey for us to make the call. In addition to that, all the delegates here, thank you for sparing your time and listening to me for the next 10-15 minutes where I'll walk you through the deck. Can we move to the next slide, please? Yeah. So when we look at all the numbers that came to us, plus we also looked at well over 250 companies' data in terms of what's been filed, etc. Now, the net result of all the analysis is in the financial year 21-22, we're pegging the total size of the Indian direct selling industry at about 19,000 crore. Yeah. So what's interesting about this is we've been able to add about 1,000 crores more than where we were in the previous year. Despite a tough year, I think adding 1,000 crores is a phenomenal job, and I'm sure every company knows the pain that's happening on the ground. So another fact that we did see in our whole analysis was 3 out of 5 companies that we analyzed did show a negative or a no growth scenario. So there's been a fair bit of pressure on the ground, a lot of activity that have happened. There are trends that have changed, but at an overall industry level, when we look at it as one, we've been able to move forward in a positive manner. When we compare this growth with how India has performed as a nation in terms of our economic output, so when we look at our last 5-year aggregate growth for the direct selling industry, so the direct selling industry has been growing at a CAGR of about 13%, whereas the Indian economy has grown at a CAGR of 2.5%. So clearly we've been well ahead of the GDP growth. Despite the COVID, which became a boon for the direct selling industry, which did help us move the needle much faster, but we've continued to move it at a better rate, even though the bases have changed. So that's something that's important to note. So even though the 5% sounds relatively low compared to the GDP, but the fact is our base has gone up, and we're coming from a very positive previous financial year to be at where we are. Can we go to the next slide, please? So when we analyzed different product categories, so broadly, when we look at it at an overall level, the two strong categories have continued to be wellness and cosmetics and personal care products. So these two have been the fundamental foundation. And in fact, when we look at the growth, can you just click once more, in fact, twice, please? Yeah, once again. Yeah. So when we look at the way these two product categories have performed, so we see that A, these are the largest categories. B, these have been the growth categories as well. So compared to the last survey results, these two categories have added market share as well. So there's been a significant push need for this two groups. Now, wellness standalone has grown by about 7.1% compared to the previous year. Cosmetics and personal care has grown by about 6.7% compared to the previous year. Now, one of the other things that we did notice from the direct seller survey that we did related to this product category is the direct sellers see that clothing and apparel is something that they all are seeing to be exciting, but we don't see that to be a large share of the pie here today. So that could be a latent potential or a hidden potential that you all could leverage, because there's a fair bit of social commerce play that happens. The likes of Meesho and others are selling it online, means there is a much larger, wider market opportunity that's available. That's something that could be a takeaway when we look at the direct seller piece and relate it back to what we're seeing in terms of sales that are happening on absolute basis. Yeah. Can we move to the next slide, please? Can we move to the next slide, please? Yeah. So when we look at the geographic growth pattern, so one thing that we notice is the order of the geographies have continued to be the same compared to the previous survey period as well. But the share gain is what one needs to focus on. So the +1 or the negative proportion that you're seeing there is either the share gain or the share reduction compared to the previous year. So what we are seeing is North, which is the largest market, has increased share by about 1.1%. So it's been a growth market plus a large share of the market. East, which is also equally big, but we did see a drop by about 1.1%. This is only East, excluding the Northeast region. Now there's 1.3 negative could have come from the northern region or some of the other or from the west region, where there is a bit of share loss. But when we look at in absolute numbers, so we don't see a negative growth, except for East, where we see the industry to be plateaued compared to the previous period. But all other markets have grown. So the growth was led by Northeast, which have grown at about 10% and 9%. Likewise, even South has grown at about 9% compared to the previous period. West grew at only about 2%, but we do see that there is a fair bit of activity happening in the in the West, which could probably boost up the next year dynamics. But that's something that's to look for. And East plateaued at about 0% for various reasons, but we didn't see absolute rupee addition in the East region. So when we look at, can you click once, please, or rather twice? Thank you. So when we look at what happened within the top 10 markets, so while the rank order more or less remained the same, except for a couple of states where there was a decimal variation, but the top three remained intact. There's no change in the top three. The top 10 states continued to account to about 71% of the total industry size. Even last year, these 10 states did account about 71%. And the year before that, they were at about 69%. So these states continue to maintain growth to that effect. Now, what's interesting to look at is, and I'm sure it's interesting to us, but for y'all who've been in the industry, it may not be very interesting. But Maharashtra tends to be on the top, even though West is not the topmost region, which means there's a fair bit of potential. Because when we look at which are the other West states here, it's primarily Maharashtra and Gujarat, and Gujarat proportion is much lower in the order there. Then the other interesting pieces are when we look at this data point. So we see that there are three north states in your, there are three north and east states which make into the top 10. There are two from the west, but there's only one from the south and one from the northeast, which means there's a fair bit of potential for growth that's there. And I did hear Rajat speak about some of this, even when we were having a chat outside. He did talk about some of the underpenetrated markets where there is an opportunity to grow. So which seems to be evident from the data that we are seeing as well. But in a nutshell, the bigger states continue to be bigger and growing, which is good from an industry standpoint. Can we move to the next slide, please? Now, while absolute sales numbers are sales numbers, or the size numbers are numbers, but the most credible piece, according to us, is the number of direct sellers that have continued to be added. So based on our latest estimates, so we believe there are about 84 lakh direct sellers who are out there in the market today, and the industry has been successfully able to add 5 lakh more people into this work stream in the last 1 year, which is a phenomenal job. In fact, when you look at this in the last 5-year play, we've seen that about 30 lakh new direct sellers have been added in India itself, which is either a main source of income or a secondary source of income, which is a fantastic thing to look at from an employment creation perspective as well. The second interesting point, and which is also contrary to what's happening globally, because we did see one of these videos that was playing up while we were waiting, which was talking about the global scenario where there is a fair share of female direct sellers, an extremely higher share of female direct sellers globally. Even in India, it used to be similar 5 years ago, I believe, but now we're seeing a fairly increased momentum of male direct sellers coming in. So today, I mean, 2 years ago, it was a small shift, but today when we look at the data, about 56% are male direct sellers today. Now, is everybody active? Inactive is a different story. But when we look at the number of people who register, they seem to be male inclined from an India standpoint today, which is interesting and very specific to India. The other piece is post-COVID. What's happening? How many are really active? Is a question mark. So we didn't have many data points to break that puzzle. But from an opinion perspective standpoint, we still feel that not all of them may be very, very active, and there are other reasons to look at it as well. If you could move to the next slide, please. Yeah. So one of the reasons that we did look at, and I'm just pulling out one of the charts from the direct seller analysis. There are a whole bunch of other pieces that's available in the document, which I'm sure will be shared with you all eventually. So what we saw here was interesting. So we were trying to understand what are the reason for somebody to be a direct seller. Now, if you look at 1 and 2 here, which is employment opportunity, or self-employment opportunity to be precise, and second one, to have an extra income in what one is doing. Now, while these two are the biggest factors this year, even previous year, but if you notice the change in the extra income group, so what's can you just do 2 more clicks, please? Thank you. So when you notice the extra income piece going down, so which means last year about 41% of the direct sellers said they see direct selling as an extra source of income. That dropped to 29% today, which means they're either focusing on their mainstream job, or they're not giving their fullest potential like the way they did during the COVID period, when this was probably something which was helping them in the family, etc. So there is some small, I mean, there is a significant change that we're seeing there. And when you look at the first factor, which is increase in self-employed opportunity, which has gone up, which clearly means that people who are in it for a much larger committed play, and the ones who are on their main source of job and trying to see if they can't, which means while the base is going up, but the active ones maybe at question is the larger point that we were able to derive when we look at some of these factors. But nevertheless, irrespective of all the absolute addition, changes, trends, etc., we're still seeing a positive forward-looking move. And I'm sure we're still on course with the future targets that you all are going after. So with that, kind of come to the end of my short presentation here. If you could just click on the next slide, please. If you all have any questions for us, my email ID is put out there. You can reach out to us, or you can reach out through Chetan as well, whichever is convenient. To be more than happy to answer those and respond to it as well. So thank you very much for listening to me.
Right after this, we can take questions. Thank you so much, Mr. Deepak, for wonderful insights, and thank you so much for your inputs on the survey. And ladies and gentlemen, with this, we come to an end of today's event. अब आज के कार्यक्रम को औपचारिक तौर पे विराम देने का वक्त आ गया है. इसके लिए मैं आमंत्रित करना चाहूँगी कोषाध्यक्ष IDSA श्री हरीश पंजी का कि वो मंच पे आएं और कार्यक्रम का निर्वाह करें. जोरदार तालियों के साथ स्वागत करें.
नमस्कार, थैंक यू। देश की सांस्कृतिक एवं ऐतिहासिक रूप से समृद्ध राजधानी में आयोजित इस कार्यक्रम में आप सबकी मौजूदगी सराहनीय है और मैं अभिनंदन करता हूं, धन्यवाद करता हूं। उपस्थित विशिष्ट अतिथियों और अन्य गणमान्यों के लिए इंडियन डायरेक्ट सेलिंग एसोसिएशन की ओर से इस जिम्मेदारी का निर्वहन करते हुए मैं इस कार्यक्रम में आप सभी की गरिमामयी उपस्थिति के लिए आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। आपने अपनी व्यस्तता के बावजूद इस कार्यक्रम के लिए समय निकाला, तहे दिल से धन्यवाद। मैं प्रिंट और इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मीडिया के मित्रों, डायरेक्ट सेलिंग उद्योग तथा IDSA सदस्य कंपनियों के अधिकारियों, डायरेक्ट सेल्स प्रतिनिधियों, इस सम्मेलन के सीधे प्रसारण से जुड़े दर्शकों, IDSA बोर्ड सदस्यों और IDSA टीम की सभी उनकी उपस्थिति तथा इस कार्यक्रम को सफल बनाने के लिए दिल से धन्यवाद करता हूं। और मैं इस प्रेरक संदेश के साथ इस बात को समाप्त करूंगा कि मेहनत पूरी करें, जोश और उत्साह के साथ सफलता खुद ब खुद एक दिन आपकी बुलंदी को, शोहरत को बुलंद करेगी। धन्यवाद, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया।
Ladies and gentlemen, with the hope that this annual survey aids in your better future plans and better presence to make things more easier for you, I, Veronica Sharma, sign off for the day. We have another programs lined up throughout the day. I would like to extend my warm gratitude. आप सभी का धन्यवाद. आप सब अपना कीमती समय निकाल के यहाँ उपस्थित हुए, मौजूद हुए, सभी का धन्यवाद. Thank you so much. Please be present for the following programs we have throughout the day. Thank you. Namaskar. Namaskar, sir.
मीडिया के साथी जो एग्जीक्यूटिव कमेटी के मेंबर से चर्चा चाहते हैं वो कृपया प्रथम तल पर वीआईपी लाउंज की तरफ प्रस्थान कर सकते हैं। जी धन्यवाद।
Anyone who would like to move forward for the media bites can go up at the first floor if you have any questions and if you want to take media bites. Thank you.
इस अवसर पर हम आप सभी को IDSA की लेटेस्ट कॉर्पोरेट मूवी जिसमें हमने डायरेक्ट सेलिंग इंडस्ट्री से जुड़ी काफी बातें रखी हैं, हम चाहेंगे कि उसको देखें। तो कृपया थोड़ी देर के लिए आप अपना स्थान ग्रहण रखें। धन्यवाद।
कि प्रत्यक्ष बिक्री उद्योग ने कुछ वर्षों में अन्य देशों की तुलना में अपेक्षा सर्वाधिक विकास दर हासिल करते हुए और पूरे विश्व बाजार में अनेक देशों को हमने पीछे छोड़ करके अपनी पहचान स्थापित करने में हमने जो अपनी रैंकिंग में भी जो सुधार किया है वो सचमुच प्रशंसनीय है। तो मेरा विश्वास है कि वेलनेस पर जो आपका विशेष रूप से, और हमें केवल एक वर्ग के लिए नहीं, अमीरों के लिए, हमें ऐसे ऐसे छोटे छोटे जो कुटीर उद्योग है उसको भी हम इस बाजार के माध्यम से गांव में रहने वाले गरीब लोग जो गांव में छोटे छोटे काम करते हैं, व्यवसाय के माध्यम से कहीं ताड़ के पत्ते से दलिया बनाते हैं, छोटे छोटे काम करते हैं, चाहे वो पूर्वोत्तर भारत में हर क्षेत्र में। और जो प्रधानमंत्री जी कहते हैं बराबर, वोकल फॉर लोकल एंड लोकल फॉर ग्लोबल, हमें पूरे विश्व में छा जाना है।
One of the oldest forms of commerce and trade is a tale as old as time. It would not be inappropriate to say that direct selling may be the very first form of trade that could have started with the commencement of trade and commerce, where a producer sold or bartered products directly to the consumer. Today, direct selling, as we see, it has been formalized and corporatized in 100+ countries. It is an organized sector that provides livelihood to more than 1 million individuals around the world. In India, around 10 million people make their living by working part-time or full-time in this rupees 20,000 crores industry. This will translate to taxes of around rupees 3,000 crores, and approximately rupees 8,000 crores is what direct sellers earn from commissions on the sale of products. This is the money going directly into people's bank accounts. It has evidently been a successful business model as it thrives on word of mouth, which can be the most powerful source of trusted information since it involves personal experiences of friends and family. At its core, the industry is all about micro-entrepreneurship and skilling. It gives people access to the right resources and mentorship to help them pursue their careers. By becoming direct sellers, they get a chance to build a sustainable business. Psychologists will tell you the strongest network is the human network. The most trusted word is that of a trusted relative, friend, or neighbor. The biggest businesses are often built on the faith of another. Direct selling is the perfect symphony of all these traits.
Direct selling is a significant contributor to the Naya Bharat vision of the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi,
and can contribute significantly in taking India to a $5 trillion economy. The fact that direct selling provides livelihoods to 10 million Indians, that's a huge number, there's 100 lakh, 10 million Indians, is something that's quite underrated in our humble opinion.
Because of the amazing benefits of being affiliated with this industry, more and more people are joining in as direct sellers every year. In 2021, India witnessed a staggering 7% year-on-year growth in the number of direct sellers from 74 lakhs in 2019 to 20 to 79 lakhs in 2021. The direct selling fraternity is arguably one of the most inclusive, as there is no gender or age bar. From an 18-year-old to a senior citizen, everyone is and can become a direct seller. Direct selling knocks over the wall of gender disparity, as women have been the backbone of the direct selling industry for years.
One very big advantage that this industry offers to women is flexibility. You will notice in all parts of the world, women drop out of the workforce either when they're married or when they have children. So the good thing about this industry is that you can decide when you want to work, how many hours you want to work, what kind of time you want to devote, how much you want to be involved. And that really is a big boon.
We can proudly say that women account for almost 50% of the total direct sellers in India. Globally, however, it stands at around 75%. It is no surprise that direct selling is firmly established in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. Direct selling has reached the far corners of the country, as this industry does not have to set up vast logistics and warehousing unlike FMCGs. Here, the direct seller has the choice of buying products from the direct selling entity or company and having these delivered to their home, which they can send to their customers. There is a written contract between each direct seller and a direct selling entity. The direct seller buys daily use products directly from the company, and GST is paid on each transaction. These products are then sold to the consumer on MRP that is clearly mentioned on the packaging of each product, just like any other transaction from a store, shop, or online. In fact, direct selling is an integral part of the retail industry or the FMCG sector.
Direct selling, according to me, is a unique business opportunity. And in this business, people doesn't have to invest any money. It generates micro entrepreneur. So those who have the micro kind of entrepreneurial skills or mindset, they can join this industries and they can start their business. And we have the examples as well, wherein people have joined one company and eventually they'll end up opening their own company and providing problems to millions.
As shared, direct selling successfully operates in 100 countries with an estimated revenue generation of approximately $200 billion and contributes rupees 20,000 crores to the Indian economy. The industry has grown by 7% as compared to the past year and registered a CAGR of 15.7%. The majority of the sales industry comes from wellness products, which accounts for 58% of the total sales, followed by cosmetics, home care, and personal care. In the aftermath of the pandemic, consumers have taken to food and dietary supplements to improve their immune systems. The direct selling industry has been able to cater to this need. The pandemic also forced direct selling companies to digitize, thereby modernizing the industry. The increasing growth of direct sellers joining the industry has made this model to be one of the major contributors to the number of self-employed people in India. Not many industries can claim to provide livelihoods to 10 million Indians. When an industry operates with such large numbers of people, it needs a world-class self-regulating body, which is where IDSA comes into the picture. While on a global scale, the WFDSA, World Federation of Direct Selling Associations, establishes global best practices in business methodology and the highest standards of ethics, in India, we have the IDSA, Indian Direct Selling Association. It is the only Indian association that is affiliated with the WFDSA and has taken on the responsibility to help society, the regulator, policymakers, and the media to better understand this industry. Out white papers, policy papers, as well as annual surveys of this fledgling industry. Besides representing industry and direct sellers, IDSA holds seminars, conferences, roundtables, and exhibitions, often in partnership with state governments, sharing global best practices. It has a robust self-regulatory code of ethics based on WFDSA's codes that encourages ethical practices by selling entities to help society, maintaining healthy competition among policymakers, and protecting the interests to better understand this and consumers. It is in the companies that become a member of and universities of repute to bring out white papers, policy papers, as well as annual surveys of this fledgling industry. Besides representing industry and direct sellers, IDSA holds seminars, conferences, roundtables, and exhibitions, often in partnership with state governments, sharing global best practices. It has a robust self-regulatory code of ethics based on WFDSA's codes that encourages ethical practices by direct selling entities, maintaining healthy competition among members, and protecting the interests of direct sellers and consumers. The companies that become a member of the association must also adhere to these codes. IDSA also works in close partnership with associations such as FICCI, PHDCC, etc. IDSA is the backbone of the direct selling industry in India, as it imparts global best practices in accordance with the Government of India. The IDSA has engaged with both the central as well as state governments for consumer protection and to impart an enhanced understanding of this industry. Companies associated with IDSA not only follow their code of ethics, but comply with all relevant laws of the land, which includes FSSAI, Legal Metrology, Drugs and Cosmetics Act, the Consumer Protection Laws, GST, and Ayush norms where applicable. Compliance with these laws by the members ensures the safety of the consumers and safeguards the direct sellers. In the long run, all this improves the credibility of this industry.
IDSA follows a rigorous empanelment process for accepting new members. All prospective members need to strictly follow the WFDSA and IDSA's Code of Ethics. These Code of Ethics outlines key traits of how business should be conducted. On receiving a new membership application, IDSA's impaneled evaluators conduct a thorough examination of the company's legal and financial documents, including doing a comprehensive social check. IDSA extends an invitation to all. Come forward, join us, and help us in creating a brighter future for the direct selling industry in India.
The association provides access to information and resources that may include industry data, research, best practices, and a lot more that help companies to stay on top of industry trends. As there are many direct selling companies in India, which often makes it challenging to identify the good from the not so good. To begin with, there is no startup or joining fee to become a direct seller. There is a written contract between the company and the direct seller. All commissions and earnings of a direct seller are strictly only from the sale of products. This payment is made by the direct selling entity into the direct seller's bank account. There is no incentive on recruitment. A good direct selling entity will not compel direct sellers to buy products they cannot reasonably sell to a consumer. The products would be of exceptional quality and the trademark be owned by the entity. Trustworthy direct selling entities either manufacture their own products or through carefully selected third-party vendors. And finally, a good direct selling model adheres to all relevant laws of the land. In short, a good direct selling entity resonates with Made in India initiative, and as a part of the Digital India, they make direct payments to banks.
We are also in terms of various engagement, various partnership with the legal universities and institutions that there is ample legal clarity when it comes to any potential regulatory risk or concern in future.
Moreover, the companies empower women as they account for almost 50% of direct sellers. A direct seller sitting at home places an order for products they wish to sell to consumers. This is ease of business for the direct seller. A good direct selling model will allow a high performer to earn more than those who may have joined before them, ensuring a level playing field for all. IDSA has led the dialogue between industry and the central as well as state governments to bring clarity and safeguard the interest of all stakeholders involved in the industry. Between 2009 and 2014, as many as 4 interministerial groups and interministerial committees had been formed to provide regulatory clarity for this industry. The largest of these was the Interministerial Committee formed in December 2014. It comprised of secretary-level officers from the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Law, Ministry of IT, and Chief Secretaries of 3 states. In September 2015, the Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, IICA, part of the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, released a white paper on the regulation of direct selling in India. IDSA and other associations made representations to at least 2 parliamentary standing committees, after which the 21st report of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Finance recommended the IICA white paper be adopted as a regulatory framework. Earlier, the NLSUI Bengaluru had produced a white paper on the regulatory needs of this industry, as has NLU Delhi. Similar policy papers were produced by ICRIER as well as KPMG. To bring about a sustainable regulatory framework, the 9th report of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Food, Consumer Affairs and Public Distribution vested the Department of Consumer Affairs in April 2016 to make regulations on e-commerce, direct selling and multi-level marketing. This effort resulted in the direct selling guidelines notified by the Centre in end 2016. Furthermore, 17 Indian states notified these guidelines, which was an acknowledgement that such clarity was required at the ground level. The Consumer Protection Act 2019 provided the concept and meaning of direct selling under Section 2, Clause 13. In December 2021, the Consumer Protection Rules 2021 were notified. This journey has involved a lot of hard work and effort on the part of several ministries and premier institutions across the country. And now, the consumer as well as the central and state governments and direct selling companies can carry out their efforts seamlessly. Well, we at IDSA believe that all this hard work was worth it, as this involves the livelihoods of millions of us Indians. Our efforts have been fruitful, as the direct selling rules are now in place and the industry has complete operational as well as regulatory clarity. industry or the FMCG sector.
Direct selling, according to me, is a unique business opportunity. And in this business, people doesn't have to invest any money. It generates micro entrepreneur. So those who have the micro kind of entrepreneurial skills or mindset, they can join this industries and they can start their business. And we have the examples as well, wherein the people have joined one company and eventually they'll end up opening their own company and providing employment to millions.
As shared, direct selling successfully operates in 100 countries with an estimated revenue generation of approximately $200 billion and contributes 20,000 crores to the Indian economy. The industry has grown by 7% as compared to the past year and registered a CAGR of 15.7%.
The majority of the sales industry comes from wellness products, which accounts for 58% of the total sales, followed by cosmetics, home care, and personal care.
In the aftermath of the pandemic, consumers have taken to food and dietary supplements to improve their immune systems. The direct selling industry has been able to cater to this need. The pandemic also forced direct selling companies to digitize, thereby modernizing the industry. The increasing growth of direct sellers joining the industry has made one of the major contributors to the number of self-employed people in India. Not many industries can claim to provide livelihoods to 10 million Indians. When an industry operates with such large numbers of people, it needs a world-class self-regulating body, which is where IDSA comes into the picture.